Rand Paul gets an interesting delivery in the mail, and don't worry about that though, because we don't go after our political enemies in this country. That would be something a tin pot dictator would do, so we'll talk a bit about what's going on there. The National Guard will be going home coming up here in the near future, so we'll talk a bit about what that means for the National Guard, the Capitol, and everything else around there. EU leaders agree on sanctions against Belarus for what they did yesterday. So we'll talk a bit about what's going on there. And DeSantis has pissed a lot of people off because he is signing a bill that bans the blocking of political figures in Florida. It's going to be all this and more. Hey, do you trust the plan yet? I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Alright, good morning everyone. Welcome to Contemporary. My name is Jay Edgar. The old HP is running a little bit slow today, but I got to get the settings up here because it looks like I got to draw the microphone back just a touch for you guys. It looks like we're having a little bit of issue going on there, but we'll get that drawn back as soon as that opens up. But before we get into that, and while that's waiting and opening stuff up, the news stops for nobody, so we've got to keep going on, and we've got plenty to get to today. It's not going to be a big 30-tab festival like we had yesterday, but there's still a little bit to get to and a little bit that we got to talk about. So it's going to be all that and more over here on Contemporary. But before we get started, head on over and check out my friends over from the Freedom Scoop Media Group. Make sure you check out great shows such as The Generational Gap, The Daily Ignoramus, The Breakdown with Breckenhoff, The R-Rated Conservative, and The Freckles and Brit Show. And guys, do remember to go and check out my other show, The Red Net Show. I recognize everybody else on the network, but I never ever recognize Elaine, who has helped me bring up a great program, and a program that you guys love to come back and watch on Monday nights too. So make sure you guys go check that out Monday nights at 5:30 as well. But head on over there. Pardon our dust, we are still under construction on the website, but once we get the website back up and running, we will have great ways for you to come back and come in and support great creators, either by buying our merch or supporting them directly. So go check out the website, freedomscoop.com, bookmark it so that you'll know when it comes back up, when it's ready, and you'll get an announcement on this program too. But head on over there and check that out and help us support great creators. All right, looking into the Dow for the morning here, we have got 34, 393, 98. Have you guys noticed that usually when the Dow goes up, it pops up and it just stagnates through the rest of the day? Today did have kind of a steady, or yesterday rather, did have kind of a steady climb, but it was that just sharp shoot up and then just kind of throughout the day, and there we sit. And we'll talk a bit about what's going to happen on the futures here coming up in just a minute. Your Bitcoin today is holding steady at 38,242.50. It's hard to believe with the numbers we were looking at just a couple weeks ago, where we're saying that 38,242.50 is holding steady, but it is holding steady right now at the top of the 30,000, bottom of the 40,000 range. So something we'll be watching. Hold on. I gotta see if I can get that setting to come up here because that is way too loud. I'm just watching I'm watching myself ping over there, and we gotta draw that back just a little bit. Just a second. On-air production, greatest thing ever. Hopefully, once we get this new computer up, we won't have to do this as much anymore. Hopefully, this will run a little bit faster, a little bit better. All right, does that sound better for you guys? A little bit? Yeah, that'll be a little bit better here. 38,242.50 is your Bitcoin valuation for the day. So holding steady, not bad. All right, let's see what the gas looks like. Looks like the gas actually might be coming down a little bit, which is surprising given everything that we've seen over the past few months with the Biden admin. But the Costco has brought it down from $2.68 to $2.65. I've seen some other stores around the area get into the $2.60 range out of the $2.70 range, but we do still see some of the $2.80s. We don't see any $2.89s anymore, but we do still see some $2.80s. So we will see, and we'll be tracking what the gas does and where it goes from there. Let's see. Let's start with Market Watch today. This is an op-ed. We didn't have any Investors Business Daily that was readily available this morning, but let's see what Market Watch has to say. Opinion. Dow 37,000. It's possible if U.S. stocks stage an average summer rally. From Mark Hulbert. Dow 37,000 by the end of the summer. That seems too good to be true since Labor Day is just 3 months away. In fact, all it would take is a summer rally of average magnitude. Many on Wall Street are excitedly taking up the potential for a summer rally this year. Since its creation in 1896, the Dow Jones Industrial Average, at some point in June, July, or August, has been 7.34% higher on average than where it stood at the end of May. Before you rush to put new money into the U.S. stock market, you should know that profiting from this potential isn't as straightforward as it seems. It would not be a good idea, for example, to simply place a market order at the end of May to sell if the Dow rises 7.34% by Labor Day. That's because 7.34% is an average. In some years, the Dow has gained far less. In fact, at times, the Dow at no point in June, July, or August was higher than where it stood at the end of May. Moreover, there's nothing special about the market's rally potential during the summer. This is illustrated in the chart below. Reflecting the Dow's 125-year history, each month's column in the chart represents the Dow's average gain from the end of the month to its highest close at any point over the subsequent 3 months. Notice that the rally potential for several months is just as high for May, if not higher, at the 95% confidence level that statisticians often use to determine if a pattern is genuine. There is nothing unusual about the market's rally potential over the 3 months from the end of May. How then did Wall Street ever come to believe that there is a summer rally? Though I've never been able to discover a definitive answer, my hunch is that it traces back to around the same time decades ago in which investors began focusing on another seasonal tendency, the sell in May and go away pattern. Since Wall Street doesn't earn any commission income if traders actually go away for the summer, it would have had a powerful incentive to concoct some narrative that would entice buyers and sellers to stick around. So this guy is basically coming out and telling you that the summer rally is bullshit, but it looks like statistically it might be true. However, this doesn't account for a few other things as we look at it. And as he pointed out, there's a narrative out there as well where the investors are trying to get commission for people that are going to trade over the summer. Here's reality, especially on the industrial index. Summertime, especially as we're coming up out of the commie coup, and people didn't travel last summer, summertime means that people are traveling. That means that they're going out to restaurants because they're not either that or they're stopping and cooking in a hotel. But either way, that's going to be something that's going to affect your stock markets, especially on the industrial side. But people are traveling. People are going and seeing the world. People are going on ships and planes and cars and gas and all the other stuff off of that. People are going to go out and spend money. They're going to buy new stuff, especially if they run out of stuff while they're on their vacations, travel size stuff, stuff like that. There is some evidence to see that this would come back up, but this also looks at the fact that we keep talking about inflation and choking out the markets with taxation as well. So a couple different ways to look at this. I don't know if we could see 37,000 at the end of the summer. We might. It might happen. I think it's quite unlikely at this point, but it might happen. There is a possibility to see it. So we will watch, and we'll continue to watch and see where the market goes. We've been watching it for almost a year at this point, so let's just keep on and see where it goes from there. All right, let's see what CNBC has to say. Dow climbs 180 points. Big tech and reopening stocks lead gains, from Yoon Lee and Pippa Stevens. U.S. stocks climbed on Monday as the tech sector and shares benefiting the most from economic reopening led the advance. The Dow Industrial Average rose 186.14 points, or 0.6%, to 34,393.98. The S&P 500 gained 1% to 4197.05, boosted by the tech and communication services sectors. The Nasdaq Composite popped 1.4% to 13,661, as Alphabet, Facebook, and Microsoft all jumped more than 2 points. Tech stocks gained to shake off another rough period for Bitcoin over the weekend as crypto bounced on Monday. The crypto dropped under 32,000 on Sunday, only to rebound 20% to above 39,000 on Monday. Last Wednesday, Bitcoin prices tumbled to just above 30,000, dropping to the lowest level since late January. Coinbase added 0.4% as Bitcoin roared back on Monday as the Goldman started coverage of the crypto exchange with a buy rating. Shares of Tesla, a big holder of the crypto, rose 4.4% despite Bitcoin's volatility. Stocks benefiting from the economic reopening gained. Shares of American Airlines and United Airlines traded at least 1% higher. Carnival was up nearly 2.7%. Norwegian Cruise Line jumped 4.7% after the cruise line operator announced plans to return to cruising in the U.S. this summer. I hate to tell you this, but no thank you. I'm still spooked by the fact that people were stuck on a Japanese cruise ship in the California harbor last year. I don't know if you guys remember that or not. I remember it. They went out for a cruise. They decided that they needed to be quarantined because of the commie fucking coup. Right in the beginning of this, before we knew a lot of this was going on, they just docked in a California harbor and they were stuck there for, I think they were there for almost 2 months, weren't they? I know it was more than 2 weeks. They just stayed there in quarantine. No way to get supplies in, no ways to get waste out. Just stay there in quarantine. No thank you. And this is coming from a guy who's, before all this shit went down, looking forward to it and putting money aside because specifically he wanted to go on a cruise. Like, specifically, that's what I wanted to do, was sit back and go for a cruise, travel the 7 seas, or at least the Gulf of Mexico, and see what it was like, and realizing that it was actually affordable to go and do. But no thank you, not right now. Because at a moment's notice, I know that some government somewhere can say, you're quarantined, stay out there for months and months on end. Fuck that. We continue to see incremental data points that strengthen our view that when entities break out of this range, the next move is a substantial rise higher. Wrote Tom Lee, head of research at Fundstrat Global Advisors. Lee cited data showing a collapse in COVID-19 cases. COVID cases in the U.S. have dropped to their lowest level since June as the nation prepares for Memorial Day weekend. The 7-day average of new infections is about 26,000 as of Sunday, according to data compiled by Johns Hopkins University. I bet you it's a lot higher than that. It's just nobody gives a fuck anymore, so we're not sitting here with a test every day. Like, you're not walking into every business everywhere where somebody's standing out there with a Q-tip saying, can I test you? Can I test you? Give me your nose. Give me your nose. Can I test you? Can I test you? Wall Street came off a negative week for the blue chip Dow and the S&P 500 as the markets rally, records stalled. The Dow dipped just 0.5% on the week, while the S&P 500 lost 0.4%. The Nasdaq Composite, meanwhile, gained 0.31% last week, snapping a 4-week losing streak. Despite last week's collapse in crypto markets and rather hawkish FOMC minutes, another equity dip was bought by investors, JP Morgan wrote in a note to clients. This buy-the-dip mentality has been remarkably strong this year and has provided support, preventing any small correction in equities and risk markets from becoming more extended, the firm added. The Federal Reserve hinted at its April meeting that it could reconsider easy monetary policies if the economy continues to show signs of rapid improvement, according to minutes from the meeting released last week. Well, we will see what happens once everything's reopened back up, and that's where I'm going to cut this article to. That's the biggest part to see, is once everything's opened back up, what happens there, because we were at the situation where certain Democrat governments had their states closed and certain other red state governments didn't. But for the most part, the market was at the bottom because it was artificially closed. It wasn't naturally closed. Once it's naturally opened, I want to see where all this financial and fiscal policy goes. But right now, I mean, the Biden administration right now could come out and say, "Oh, come on, man, we need to raise money for these programs that we did over the summer, and we're gonna have a 95% tax rate on all businesses and 92% on all income here because we gotta raise money to pay for this shit." And still, with the reopening, the market's gonna go up and the economy's gonna go up for a little while. Because people want to go back to work, people want to get out, and they want to get the fuck out of their houses. And that's going to be all good and hunky-dory for about a month. And then people are going to look down and realize, wait a second. I'm paying all my money in taxes. Sell, 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 sell. So, a couple different ways that this will go. Something to definitely watch, and we will watch this as it goes. Let's get into the big news of the day. And today we start with Politico. Suspicious package sent to Rand Paul's home. From Tara Palmieri. The FBI and Capitol Police are investigating a suspicious package containing a white powder that was delivered to the home of Senator Rand Paul on Monday, according to a senior advisor to the senator. A large envelope arrived at the senator's home in Kentucky and is currently being examined for harmful substances. Sergio Gore said the sender is unknown. I take these threats immensely seriously, Paul said in a statement. As a repeated target of violence, it is reprehensible that Twitter allows C-list celebrities to encourage violence against me and my family. Just this weekend, Richard Marx called for violence against me, and now we received the powder-filled letter. Dude, Rand Paul is like the OG. He is, and I'm not saying he's the best senator by any stretch of the imagination. He's got good policies. He's not his father. I can tell you that. He's got good policies, and he's got policies I question. But that dude has been at the center of every kind of violence that's ever seen Congress. Well, at least not ever seen Congress. I mean, he wasn't there when Aaron Burr shot Alexander Hamilton, but just in the last few years, his neighbor busting his rib, the protesters going after him, and him helping the Capitol Police officer after the protester knocked him over with the bike. The congressional baseball shooting, he was there, and now the white powder on top of this. Rand Paul is a fucking beast, you guys, and he's always there. He always pops up and he shows up right where the action is. I don't know if it's just that somebody's got a vendetta against him and they're trying to get him into there, or what the story is of, but you notice he's always right at the center of one of these attacks. I think he might have even been there when, horrifically, the most horrific attack in Congress ever happened. You remember the horrific attack there? The most horrific attack to ever hit a member of Congress in the Senate or the House. Remember that? When some representative called Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez a fucking bitch. The worst attack ever in history, right there. Marx, a singer and songwriter who was popular in the 80s and 90s, tweeted on Sunday, "I'll say it again, if I ever meet Rand Paul's neighbor, I'm going to hug him and buy him as many drinks as he can consume." Paul suffered broken ribs after his neighbor, Rene Boucher, assaulted him. In 2017, Boucher pled guilty to assaulting a member of Congress. Marx did not respond to an initial request for comment. A spokesperson for the U.S. Capitol Police also did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Fox News reported later Monday that the outside the envelope had a picture of a bandaged Paul with a gun pointed at his head, and this quote, "I'll finish what your neighbor started, you motherfucker." Well, that's charming. It's not the first time either, I promise you that. I'm sure that they get this kind of stuff all the time. And it's not just Rand, it's just Rand was the most public about it at this point. But yeah, I'm sure that somewhere through the mailroom, people sitting there, college-age temps are sitting there sorting stuff out over and over again. More anthrax. More anthrax. Ricin. Baking powder. I'm sure we see a lot of that because Congress is surprisingly unpopular, and there are a lot of people out there without a lot of sense and without a lot of stuff to do. There are a lot of really stupid people out there that are willing to do shit like this, so. But it's classy nonetheless. I wonder if it was Richard Marx. I don't know, we'll see. Alright, let's grab another one here. The title story for this particular video, National Guard ending mission at the Capitol, from Michael Schnell. The National Guard is ending its deployment in Washington, D.C. more than 4 months after the troops were called to the district following the deadly January 6th selfie fest at the Capitol. WUSA 9 reported that 2149 National Guard troops will return to their home bases this week after the Department of Defense did not request that the force extend its mission to help protect the nation's capital past Sunday. A spokesperson for the D.C. National Guard told WUSA 9 that operations will return to normal. The Capitol Police have not requested the Guard to stay past May 23rd. Once the mission concludes, D.C. National Guard will return to normal operations, and the out-of-state Guard members will return to their home station, Captain Chelsea B. Johnson of the D.C. National Guard Public Affairs said in a statement to WUSA 9. The Hill reached out to the D.C. National Guard for comment. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin in March approved a request to keep nearly 2,300 National Guardsmen at the Capitol building through May 23rd. At the time of the extension, the Pentagon Press Secretary John Kirby said the move was made after a thorough review of the request and after close consideration of its potential impact on readiness. He added during a Pentagon briefing that the extension was granted to bolster and support the Capitol Police and their capabilities, which may not be at the level where it needs to be given the fact that we're in a sort of new environment in this country. Most popular president in history. National Guard troops from around the country were initially assigned to D.C. to help bolster security for Biden's inauguration. Well, I mean, that's a reasonable time, too, to stay in after inauguration. What's it been? When was the inauguration? January 20th. It's now, I don't know, May 25th? But, definitely, the most popular president in all of history. Honk. Most votes ever for a president in history. Honk. Honk, honk, wink. The Pentagon's decision not to extend the National Guard's mission in Washington, D.C. comes amid a battle on Capitol Hill over the creation of a 9/11-style commission to investigate the events of January 6th, which sparked the increased security in the district. And not the fact that we have, nothing bad happened, the most popular president in history that was elected by a bigger margin than ever and had more votes than any president in history combined. Even Barack Obama. Honk. Wink, wink. But they're going home. I don't know word as to whether or not the fencing is going up or down, but you've got the Capitol under military occupation for 4 months. 4 months. Most popular president in history. Honk. Wink, wink. All right, let's grab one here from NPR for you guys. I know you guys love the NPR stories here. This was another big one that popped up late last night, or early this morning. And it's sure to rile up all the Democrats in the world, especially the Biden supporters. But we have to make sure that you donate to NPR because they need your money. I mean our money, comrade, to help support their mission to spread progressive ideas throughout the world. National Progressive Radio, NPR, spreading communist ideals around the world. Let's see what they have to say. DOJ moves to block full memo on Trump obstruction decision from release. This is from Kerry Johnson. Do you see that donate button up there? They need our money, comrade. Give them our money, won't you? Let's see what they have to say. The Justice Department released a portion of an internal memo cited by former leaders as part of their decision, concluding that former President Trump did not obstruct justice, but in a court filing late Monday, said they would seek to block the full document from release. The move is certain to disappoint watchdog groups and Biden admin allies in Congress who have called for transparency about alleged wrongdoing in the Trump years and accountability for officials who allegedly abused their power. Democrat Senators Dick Durbin and Sheldon Whitehouse recently wrote to new Attorney General Merrick Garland urging him to end the court battle and make the document public in order to help rebuild the nation's trust in DOJ's independence after 4 years of turmoil. The lawsuit, filed by Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics, or CREW, is one of the first public tests of how the new DOJ leaders will handle questionable activity by their predecessors. During the presidential campaign, then-candidate Joe Biden had an uneasy reaction to the idea of a federal case against Trump. Since then, Biden has pledged to leave decisions about law enforcement matters to the Justice Department. He told an interviewer that he didn't know about a recent FBI search of the apartment of former Trump lawyer Rudy Giuliani until after it had concluded. Bullshit! Bullshit! Excuse me. Sorry, I had to clear my throat there for a second. Law professor Jennifer Taub recently wrote that the federal persecutors needed to return to the era of punishing white-collar criminals, and that the effort should begin with Trump. Because of course it does. Because of course it should. The current controversy arose around a Freedom of Information Act lawsuit filed by CREW, which sought a memo prepared by Trump Justice Department officials' Office of Legal Counsel. The memo purportedly analyzes evidence about Trump's actions during the investigation by special counsel Robert Mueller under the Federal Obstruction of Justice statute. statutes, I'm sorry. U.S. District Judge Amy Berman Jackson accused the Justice Department of mischaracterizing the document and being disingenuous with the court about its purpose and substance. Trump's critics, including former government ethics chief Walter Shaub, seized the blistering decision. Walter Shaub tweets out, "What happens to Justice Department attorneys when a judge says affidavits they signed under oath are not worthy of credence and disingenuous, asking for a nation?" Here is reality, and I'm going to be completely realistic about this. And I said this during the Giuliani apartment raid as well, and I'm going to be consistent about this. Now, it was fun to sit in the rallies and hear, "Lock her up, lock her up, lock her up. Okay, Hillary Clinton is the worst. I'm going to get into office and lock her up. Okay, and drain the swamp, lock up all the crooked Democrats and all the crooked..." It's fun to sit back and think about all that kind of stuff, but realistically, that is tin pot dictator stuff. And hell, the progressives were right about that back in 2016. They called that right on the head. Now, if somebody's committed a crime, I believe that they should be held accountable to their actions on both sides of it. But what do you do when it's your political opponent that's running the Justice Department? If Trump had gone forward, no matter what the evidence is, and we've all seen what happened with Benghazi, we've all seen it. But no matter what, it's going to look like a tin pot dictatorship kind of thing. And I'm sure the Justice Department came out and said, "Mr. President, it's technically you can do it. You're the president. You're the head of the biggest law enforcement arm of the government. But that's going to be really, really bad optics, Mr. President, sir. And they might haul you out of here in stocks if you do that. You have your people that love you, but they might turn on you on that kind of stuff." And that's what we're seeing here with the DOJ too. I'm sure that Merrick Garland wants to come back and say, "Okay, this is my chance to get my revenge against Donald." But that is tin pot dictator level shit. That is shit like you do not want to be around. That kind of stuff. And that's why they're doing this. And that's probably why they're redacting it too, because if they come out and say this, their critics, like Walter Shaub, are going to come out and say, "No! Evil Orange Man is uniquely evil. We need to make an exception for him. No, you're not doing our will." Which, I mean, he's not doing their will anyway. And we've got some other stuff that goes along with that as well throughout the day. But you don't do this kind of stuff. And it is a gigantic conflict of interest. No matter what he may or may not have done, it is a massive conflict of interest for your political opponents to be the ones that are pressing charges. Now, if it's state, that's still a massive conflict of interest, but it's less of a conflict of interest. For Biden's DOJ to go after Trump, that's going to be the beginning of what could be happening to the rest of us. And the people know this. Whether he did something or not, and I'm not even convinced he did something. Absolutely. But this has sure pissed a lot of people off too. I got one here from Ipsos. Very objective news source and polling form Ipsos. Over half of Republicans believe Donald Trump is the actual president of the United States. Let's read what they have to say, and then I'm going to weigh in on this one too. Excuse me. This is from Chris Jackson and Jocelyn Duran. Former President Trump's stronghold over the Republican Party remains his refusal to concede the 2020 election. He did concede, by the way. And call us of widespread fraud. Most popular president in history, honk honk. Have raised doubts about the integrity of its election, the results among his Republican base. Consequently, 56% of Republicans believe the election was rigged. Totally wasn't rigged. Totally most popular president in history, Susan. Don't ban me, bro. Or the result of illegal voting, and 53% think Donald Trump is the actual president, not Joe Biden. Only 30% of Republicans feel confident that absentee or mail-in ballots were accurately counted, compared to 86% of Democrats and 55% of independents. As a result, 87% of Republicans believe it is important that the government place new limits on voting to protect elections from fraud. Finally, 63% of Republicans think Donald Trump should run for president again in 2024, compared to only 8% of Democrats and 23% of independents. These are some of the findings of an Ipsos poll conducted between May 17th and 19th, 2021. For the survey, a sample of 2,000 Americans age 18 plus from the continental U.S., Alaska, and Hawaii were interviewed online in English. The sample includes 909 Democrats, 745 Republicans, and 196 independents, which means it included 1,100 Democrats. Weighting was then employed to balance demographics to ensure that the sample's composition reflects that of the adult population according to the census, which means that they massively oversampled Democrats and then weighted it to make it look even more in Democrats' favor. According to census data, and to provide results intended to approximate the sample universe. The precision of Ipsos online polls is measured using credibility intervals. In this case, the poll is accurate within 2.5% plus or minus. 19 times out of 20, had all Americans been polled, the credibility interval will be wider among subsets of the population. All sample surveys and polls may be subject to other sources of error, including but not limited to coverage error and measurement error. The poll also had a credibility interval of plus or minus 3.7 percentage points for Democrats, plus or minus 4.1 percentage points for Republicans, and plus or minus 8.0 percentage points for independents. A lot of information there. I am going to tell you what's going on. Now, there are a lot of people, and I go to various places in Wisconsin. Now, if you get outside of Madison, Milwaukee, you will see Trump flags left and fucking right everywhere. Up in the county where I grew up, the rural county there that is redacted, you see them all over the place. Even on main highways, you see them. Around here in Rock County, you see them all over the place. Maybe not so much in Janesville proper, but definitely in surrounding areas in Rock County. Up in Columbia County, where I spend some time every once in a while, there you'll see the flags here and there on various places. Once again, up on main roads. And we do have the religious fervor out there, people that believe that Donald Trump is the rightful president. Well, here's what's realistic about this. Donald Trump is not the rightful president, no matter how many people are polled and how many people believe this. As soon as Joe Biden placed his hand on the Bible and didn't burst into flames and said, "Oh, come on, man. I swear to uphold, the thing, man. And to the best of, hey, Jill, what's my line?" As soon as he did that, he was the rightful president of the United States. Now, how they got from point A to point B is totally not in question and totally above board, and nothing bad happened, Susan, honk honk, wink wink. And it's totally above, that's what happened. That's totally normal, and Joe Biden is the most popular president in history. It's totally not in question how they got from point A to point B. Completely 100% honkler, not in question. And at that point, Joe Biden became, no matter what, the rightful president of the U.S. as soon as he placed his hand on that Bible. But they're going to continue to pull this because it's just like with Marjorie Taylor Greene. All they want to do is come out and say, "Oh, look at all that religious fervor and all these Trump voters that they look at Trump as their God." And he that kind of bullshit. So, that's what they have. Let's grab one from Politico. Tuberville says he informed Trump of Pence's evacuation before rioters reached the Senate. From Kyle Cheney. Oh, this ought to be objective. It's from a Cheney. Senator Tommy Tuberville revealed late Wednesday that he spoke to Donald Trump on January 6th, just as a violent mob closed in on the Senate, and informed the then president directly that Vice President Mike Pence had just been evacuated from the chamber. "I said, Mr. President, they just took the vice president out. I've got to go," Tuberville told Politico on Capitol Hill on Wednesday night, saying that he cut the phone call short amid the chaos. The existence of the phone call had been previously reported, but the detail that Tuberville informed Trump his vice president was in danger is a new and potentially significant development for House prosecutors. Seeking Trump's conviction, it occurred just around the time that Trump sent a tweet attacking Pence for not having the courage to unilaterally stop Joe Biden's victory. And Trump never indicated publicly that he was aware of Pence's plight, even hours after Tuberville says he told him. It's long been unclear precisely when Trump learned of the danger that Congress and his vice president faced, though it was broadcast all over live television, but Tuberville's claim would mark a specific moment Trump was notified that Pence had to be evacuated for his own safety. I'm sorry, but there's still reasonable doubt here. And it's still reasonable to this. Now, no matter what, you still have to convince me, and they're gonna continue to do this forever. This is going to be something. I mean, how long have we looked at 9/11 at this point, and how long have we lived under the 9/11 boot? This is going to be something that goes on long after the Orange Man is in the ground. Long, 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 long after they bury his fat carcass. We're still going to be talking about this, and this is still going to be something that comes up everywhere. We're going to continue to be hearing about this. In order for there to be a prosecution, not persecution, although it's the same thing at this point, in order for there to be a prosecution, you still have to connect the dots. That Donald went out initially to come out and say, okay, all my supporters, let's march on the Capitol, let's burn that motherfucker down. If I can't have it, nobody can have it, okay? All of us, let's go. Let's do this right now. Fuck peace, we're not going to do this peacefully anymore. You have to show me that he actually said that. Because I heard the speech. I've heard the speech numerous times. And there is reasonable doubt to say that he organized this. I don't believe he did. I don't believe he wanted this to happen. And yes, we saw the video last night. We watched it with Elaine of the Q shaman and his yellow sweatshirt buddy standing there telling the protesters to do to protest peacefully because they had the right to redress their grievances. There are probably a handful of the people at the Capitol Selfie Fest who will need to go down for specific assault and violently attempting to interrupt a government proceeding. There are a handful of people that need to go away for that, but for the most part, the majority of the people who were there that day need to go down for criminal trespass because they were redressing their grievances. And by the code of law, they shouldn't even do that, but you know, Congress, that's what they're going to do. They're going to prosecute the people that they don't like. So that's what we're seeing coming back from that. And yeah, in spite of the fact, you know, you're sitting here in chaos, people are busting into the Capitol. Who knows if he could even make out what Tommy Tuberville was saying? Regardless, we're going to hear about this for the next 50 fucking years. Promise. I promise. All right, let's grab one from CNBC. Speaking of the old in chief, student debt forgiveness isn't in Biden's annual budget. Here's why experts say that's not surprising. From Abigail Johnson-Hess. On the campaign trail, President Biden issued his support for $10,000 of undergraduate or graduate student debt relief for every year of national community service up to 5 years and $50,000. Since then, House and Senate Democrats repeatedly urged Biden to broadly forgive up to $50,000 of federal debt through executive order during his first 100 days in office, because they know it can't get past the filibuster and they can't get into budget reconciliation. Biden's first 100 days are now behind him, and he has repeatedly pushed back against leaders of his own party, stating that he will only support up to $10,000 of debt forgiveness and what he would prefer Congress craft the legislation. On Friday, the Washington Post, where democracy goes to die in darkness, reported that several ambitious Biden campaign pledges will likely be left out of the annual White House budget, including student debt forgiveness. The Biden admin is reportedly reviewing federal student loan relief programs separately, but higher education experts Mark Kantrowitz says the news is not surprising. He says that those interested in future student debt forgiveness should instead pay close attention to the memo that Biden has requested about the use of executive authority to cancel student loans. President Biden is still waiting for the U.S. Department of Justice and the U.S. Department of Education to report on their review of his legal authority to forgive student loan debt through executive order, explains Kantrowitz. Only after he receives the report, which I expect will find that he does not have the legal authority, will the ball be in Congress's court. Student debt forgiveness has been notably missing from Biden's proposed stimulus packages and his infrastructure package, and Forbes contributor Zach Friedman argues that the number one reason Biden is unlikely to cancel student loans is simple. If he wanted to, he would have done it already. Experts like Persis Yu, the director of the National Consumer Law Center's Student Loan Borrower Assistance Program, are more optimistic that the memo will conclude that the president has the executive authority to forgive student loans, and yet he still won't. Something you have to remember about forgiveness of student loan debts, and that's the same thing for every single campaign promise out there. And we talked about this last night as well. Anything that is a promise for a campaign trail, whether it be by a congressman, by a senator, or by the president himself, if you keep that promise, you have nothing to run on next year. It's just like the border. It's just like executive amnesty. It's just like, what else is a big problem that we hear perpetually? Bring the jobs back. Erase student debt. End the drug war. All these things sound good on a campaign trail, but then you get back here and say, well, I got obstructed in my first 4 years, so now I need to go and do this again. Same thing with single-payer health care. Oh, I got obstructed, so you'll have to elect me again. Oh, hey, I'm termed out. I'm at term limits here. Hey, I got obstructed. You have to vote for my friend here. If they solve a problem, then they have nothing to run on next year, and it's going to be the same thing, because they can come back and tell all these students, oh, hey, I'm just give me a little bit longer, or give my party a little bit longer, and we'll totally do this for you. But you have to make sure you keep voting for us. If you vote for the other guy wins, and you'll never have this again. In fact, he'll double your student loans because he'll say this, that, the next thing. They're never going to solve this shit. That gives people upward mobility. They don't want people to have upward mobility. So that's what's happening with that. Speaking of Congress, from the Hill, Warren offers bill to increase IRS budget to $31.5 billion. From Naomi Jagoda. Senator Elizabeth Warren on Monday introduced legislation that would increase the IRS's budget to $31.5 billion in order to bolster the agency's efforts to go after wealthy people who are not paying taxes they owe. Oh, it's the wealthy, and we need to make sure that the rich pay their fair share. The bill's introduction comes after the President Biden offered his own proposal to boost IRS funding, and his policymakers view strengthening tax enforcement as a way to pay for infrastructure spending that could have bipartisan appeal. So not only are you going to rob people because taxation is theft, but you're going to give the robbers bigger guns, so they're not coming at you with a 9mm anymore. Now they're coming at you with a fucking hand cannon. For too long, the wealthiest Americans and big corporations have been able to use lawyers, accountants, and lobbyists to avoid paying their fair share, and budget cuts have hollowed out the IRS, so it doesn't have the resources to go after wealthy tax cheats. Warren, a member of the Senate Finance Committee, said in a statement, "The IRS should have more and more stable resources to do its job, and my bill would do just that. Oh, and by the way, I want to make sure that they have time to relax after they're done. IRS agents, I'm having a beer. Would you like a beer, IRS agents? I'm going to have me a beer, and this is totally not mechanical." The IRS's budget is substantially lower on an inflation-adjusted basis than it was at its peak in 2010. Budget cuts to the agency in the early part of the last decade led to a decline in staffing levels and audit rates, including for wealthy individuals and corporations. Warren's bill would remove the IRS's core budget from the annual appropriations process and would instead provide it with mandatory funding in an effort to make its budget more predictable. The budget would be $31.5 billion for fiscal 2022, an amount that would be more than double the agency's budget in 2010 after adjusting for inflation, and is much higher than the enacted level for this year of $11.9 billion. The budget would be adjusted for inflation in subsequent years. By the way, that's almost $20 billion with a B, which is more than they're giving for the Capitol security bill. And the first thing that I have to ask, well, even though that I know at this point, because that's definitely what they're trying to do, is where the fuck does the money come from? Where are you going to get all this money? Because you can't just keep fucking printing this money like this. I don't understand where you believe that this is possible, that you can keep doing this. But they continue to do it. And think that the money just grows on trees. But here you go. That's coming up here in the near future. Hope you filed right. From the New York Post. Liz Cheney comes out in support of stricter voting laws, sees no link to Trump. From Emily Jacobs. Representative Liz Cheney, who is desperately trying to make herself more appealing among Republican circles again, says she supports state and local GOP efforts to enact stricter voting laws, denying any link between that and former President Trump's efforts to contest the 2020 election. Cheney, whose political future is in limbo after losing her House leadership position for breaking with the 45th president, made the comments to Axios on HBO after being asked what Republicans' culpability was for spreading the election misinformation with these efforts. Well, I think you have to look at the specifics of each one of these efforts. I think if you look at the Georgia laws, for example, there's been a lot that has been said nationally about the Georgia voter laws that turn out not to be true, the former number 3 House Republican said. Pressed on the matter further, Cheney reiterated, I think you've got to look at each individual state law before turning her attention to areas where she stood with her party. I will never understand the resistance, for example, to voter ID, she said. There is a big difference between that and a president of the United States who loses an election after he tried to steal the election and refuses to concede. Fucking gag. Fucking gross. Why does this woman still have a platform? Oh, well, she broke with the evil orange man, so we have to make her as famous as possible and as famous as we can get her. Get rid of this fucking war pig. And this is her. She's just desperately clamoring to stay in the good graces of her voters at this point, which cannot be that difficult given the fact that the person that's running against her is a pedophile and admitted it. The saddest thing to me at this point is the fact that it is entirely possible that this woman gets reelected because they can't put anybody up against her who's halfway decent. But there it is. She's still trying to come back and say, see, I'm still a Republican. See, just please vote for me. Please keep me in. Don't vote for my primary opponent. Please, I'll do whatever you say except for go with the orange man. All right, let's grab one from the Blaze. Progressives call out anti-Semitism and Islamophobia after wave of hate against Jews, from Chris Pandolfo. As pro-Palestinian activists engage in a rising wave of attacks against American Jews, some progressive lawmakers who have criticized Israel are condemning the anti-Semitic violence, but are also suggesting without evidence that there's a concurrent rise in Islamophobia since violence renewed between Israel and Hamas. Recent high-profile anti-Semitic attacks in New York City and Los Angeles in the last 2 weeks have called national attention to a rising wave of hate crimes committed against Jews. Senator Bernie Sanders, an outspoken critic of Israel, on Friday condemned disturbing anti-Semitic attacks and a troubling rise in Islamophobia. If you are committed to a future of equality and peaceful coexistence and pudding cups for everybody, please stand united against anyone who promotes hatred of any kind. But please stand with anybody who says pudding cups for everybody. Because I need my pudding cup. And my pudding cup is the only thing that gets me up in the morning, okay? Representative Rashida Tlaib shared Sanders' tweet with a quote from Martin Luther King Jr. and said, "We won't be free if we come from a place of hate, plus violence, plus racism." The ADL last week reported a 47% increase from... Oh, by the way, Rashida, I just want to remind you, from the river to the sea. The ADL last week reported a 47% increase from the previous week in online and real-world incidents of anti-Semitism. In the U.S., the ADL said that there were 193 reports of possible anti-Semitic attacks in the U.S. from May 7th to the 14th, up from 131 incidents reported in the week prior. You know what the worst anti-Semitic attack was that I've seen so far? Twitter, for 12 hours, suspended the account of Freckled Liberty. That's anti-Semitism to a level that we've not seen so far. That's horrifying. Tell Twitter what you think about that, too, by the way. She is back. And really, honestly, especially coming from Rashida Tlaib, I'm sure that Ilhan Omar is coming up, too, and saying, "Oh, this we must say that, oh, I can't say this. No. I tried to say... I tried to speak out against this, but I will burst into flames if I say it out loud." These people who are so anti-Israel, it's not even funny, are now coming out and saying that we need to stop the anti-Semitism. Spare me. Spare me. From CNN. Detained Belarusian dissident appears in a video as fury mounts over hijacking of Ryanair flight. From Sheena McKenzie and Anna Chernova. Dissident journalist Roman Protasevich has appeared in a new video after his arrest by Belarusian authorities on Sunday following the government's extraordinary diversion of Ryanair flight to capital city in Minsk. The video, the first since Protasevich's arrest, comes amid mounting fears for his safety and widespread fury over the division of a European commercial flight. The attitude of the Interior Ministry employees towards me has been as correct as possible and in compliance with the law, Protasevich says in the video, which was posted on Monday evening to a pro-government social media channel. "I continue to cooperate with the investigation and have confessed to organizing mass riots in the city of Minsk." He also says his supporters believe the video was made under duress. Protasevich is one of dozens of Belarusian journalists and activists campaigning in exile against Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko's 26-year rule. He is the founder of the Telegram channel Nexta, which helped mobilize anti-Lukashenko protests, and he was charged last year with organizing mass riots and group actions that grossly violate public order. He is on a government watch list for terrorism. So, yeah, it probably is made under duress. Really, honestly, in a country that does seem to be a little bit tin potty with the president that's been there for 26 years. Taking down a dissident like this, I can't imagine that they can just not go out and lean on somebody until he says what they want him to say. But yeah, that's probably made quite under duress. Let's grab one here from the Dissociated Press. EU leaders agree on Belarus sanctions after plane diversion. With the mask on, that looks like AOC biscuit, doesn't it? Kind of does. I'm sure it's not, because these are white people. This is a white country. And she doesn't want to be anywhere helping them, but just kind of with the face structure and the glasses on the head, kind of looks like her. The EU agreed on Monday to impose sanctions on Belarus, including banning its airlines from using the airspace and airports of the 27-nation bloc amid fury over the forced diversion of a passenger jet to arrest an opposition journalist. Reacting to what EU leaders call a brazen hijacking of the Ryanair jetliner flying from Greece to Lithuania on Sunday, they also demand the immediate release of the journalist, Roman Protasevich, a key foe of authoritarian Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko. "We won't tolerate that one can try to play Russian roulette with the lives of innocent civilians," said EU Council Chief Charles Michel, who presided over the EU meeting. A brief clip of Protasevich, who ran a popular messaging app that played a key role in helping organize huge protests against Lukashenko, was shown in Belarusian state television Monday night, a day after he was removed from the Ryanair flight. Yeah. And especially with what trade goes, the EU nations look at this and say, you were naughty. We're going to punish you with trade deals and sanctions and this, that, the next thing. Naughty, naughty, naughty. And this is kind of dictatory and kind of scummy. So I don't have much to say to this other than the fact that, good on them. If they don't do what you agreed to, you're under no obligation to trade with them. Or trade with them with stipulations. And if they want it bad enough, they'll go somewhere else and either pay a hiked up price or get punished by that nation too. So we will see what happens with that. We've got a Veritas update here for you guys. We're not going to watch the full 10-minute video, but we'll watch some of this here. Veritas tips at protonmail.com. At Eric Spracklin says, breaking. Facebook whistleblowers expose leaked internal documents detailing the new effort to secretly censor vaccine concerns on a global scale. Let's have a listen to what this sounded like.
We have just obtained multiple leaked documents from inside Facebook, this time detailing a plan to curb, quote, vaccine hesitancy on a global scale. It was so concerning, it brought us not one, but two whistleblowers from inside Facebook who are ready to speak out on what this means for free speech and public discourse on their own platform.
I have to do something. When it comes time to standing up for a world I want my children to live in, I don't want to leave them a world to where they don't have these liberties. Facebook uses classifiers in their algorithms to determine certain content to be what they call vaccine hesitant, or they call it vaccine hesitancy. And without the user's knowledge, they assign a score to these comments that's called the VH score, the vaccine hesitancy score. And based on that score, will demote or leave the comment alone, depending on the content within the comment. So the main document, along with all the attachments and stuff that goes with it. So basically, when they write this algorithm, it goes through Facebook content, and it looks for certain keywords that are related to vaccination or not getting a vaccine and stuff like that. And it gives it a score, and the VA score means vaccine hesitancy, which is defined as being hesitant to get a vaccine, but not just like, well, I don't know, it's even, well, I saw a study that said that someone died that got the vaccine. That's vaccine hesitancy.
This is all a beta test.
Right.
And how big is this beta test?
They refer to the test size as 1.5%. I'm not exactly which pool that pulls from, but I think it's comments on authoritative health pages.
Why do we believe they've already rolled this out?
In one slideshow that they have, they call it their weekly progress tracker. Mm-hmm. They actually lay all this out in a chart, and you can see it. You can look at the slides, they go by date. So we've got here COVID-19 vac safety and efficacy global, currently global, 13 languages, Facebook plus Instagram. All C-19 vaccine global, currently global, 66 languages. And the very first thing that brought me to the conclusion that they wanted to do this globally is they were developing it in as many languages as they could get their hands on.
So this is like a product launch almost.
Yeah. In their last quarterly report, they reported 2.79 billion people on Earth use some kind of Facebook app.
Who makes these decisions?
For this year, Amit Ball, he's a research scientist for the core data science team at Facebook. He also works in health integrity. Everyone who works on this project works in health integrity. Ed Townley, this is the experiment launch post. As you can see, this is on April 16th. This is 2021. That's why there's no year there, because it's this year. And Hendrik Townley is one of the software engineers that works on this. I think it was him and two other software engineers. And then Amit Ball wrote the actual classifier itself. I'm sure he had like a team of developers, but he is considered the one who wrote it.
So Amit Ball works for UD Weisenberg, who works for Nicholas Steer. Do I have that correct?
Yes.
And that person works for Danny Ferrante, and that person works for Javier Olivian, and Javier Olivian reports directly to Mark Zuckerberg. This kind of censorship sounds similar to shadow banning, when users are unaware their posts can't be seen, a term one of our own investigators.
So it does sound on this a lot like like you said, it was shadow banning, and I listened longer than I wanted to on this one, but definitely I wanted to make sure that the person whose voice was changed did get the platform to say what it is that he needed to say, because I mean that's how they're trying to shape the narrative off of this. The people who come out, and yeah, that was one of the problems with social media, is that everybody could have a voice. I mean, look at this program right here. Specifically this program that you're watching right now, and I've got people from, let's have a look at who's in here right now. That I can see a person from California, from Florida, from New York City. I'm not going to tell you where everyone's from Chicago. I'm not going to tell you who's from where, but I've got Oregon. I've got people, not Oregon, but Oklahoma. I'm sorry. I've got people from all over the country sitting here and watching me sit in my living room in front of a webcam and talk to you. And social media gave everybody a voice. It wasn't just who goes through your CNNs, your MSDNCs, your Foxes, your stuff like that. It gives everyone a voice. And Facebook has got to go back and push against that, because they have a narrative they have to push. You have to want the vaccine. And if you don't want the vaccine, you're part of a second-class citizen group. And they will make sure that you don't get your voice heard. So this is actually happening. And honestly, really, and I say this as someone who is currently streaming to Facebook, if you're still using Facebook, stop. Seriously, because they are the worst at it. And Facebook gets it from all fucking sides, too. I go on Facebook just to check my analytics for this program. Every once in a while, I'll look through and I'll see some posts, and for the most part, it's don't care, don't care, don't care, don't care. Once in a while, I'll see a post that I care about. But for the most part, it's just blind fucking noise anymore. It's reshared news articles that I've already seen or have already been debunked. There are very few people who are posting anything original over there. But yeah, that's actually happening, you guys. So that's what we see. Let's grab one from the Daily Wire. Psaki snaps at reporter asking about origin of the commie fucking coup, despite CDC director saying virus could have emerged from a Chinese lab. Do I have video of this? Tell me I have video. Screw you. I picked this one because I hoped they would have video. Anyway, Jen Psaki, President Biden's press secretary, on Monday, bristled when a reporter pressed her for answers on whether the White House is doing enough to learn the origin of the commie coup. Fox News' Peter Doocy asked the spokeswoman about a Wall Street Journal article that cited U.S. intelligence reports saying 3 researchers from China's Wuhan Institute of Virology were hospitalized in November of 2019, a month before China officially reported its first case. Why isn't President Biden pushing for more access, more information to get to the bottom of exactly what happened? Doocy asked. Well, we are, Psaki said, and we have repeatedly called for the World Health Organization to support an expert-driven evaluation of the pandemic's origins that is free from interference or politicization. During that first phase of the investigation, there was not access to data. There was not information provided, she said. Now we're hopeful that the WHO can move into a more transparent, independent Phase 2 investigation. Doocy followed up by asking, but with 589,920 dead Americans, at what point does President Biden say, we don't want to wait for WHO effort, we want to know what they're doing. This needs to be an American-led effort to get to the bottom of what happened. Peter Doocy is turning into a right-wing fucking Jim a cocksucker. I don't know if you've noticed that or not, but he really is, and that's the story that... I love how the Daily Wire criticized Jim a cocksucker for the way that he was with Kayleigh McEnany and Sarah Sanders. And now they're putting Peter Doocy up on a pedestal. Because you'll notice, like, every time I read about Jen Psaki from the Daily Wire, you already know whose name is going to be in here. It's always going to be Peter Doocy. What do we call him? What do we call... If we call the CNN guy Jim a cocksucker, what do we call Doocy? How about this? Peter Douchebag. That's what we're going to call him. Peter Douchebag. The reporter pointed out that Biden talks all the time about how he's known President Xi for a long time, so why can't he just call and ask him for that information? Psaki lost her cool and tried to dress down Doocy. I think you're misunderstanding how this process actually works, she said. What we can't do, and what I would caution anyone doing, is leaping ahead to an actual international process. We don't have enough data and information to jump to a conclusion at this time. What we do share, everyone in this country, is a desire to know how this started, where it started, and prevent it from ever happening again, she added. That's something we all share. And I'm going to circle back to you and finish this out, but let me call in somebody else here. So, yeah, that's what they do here. And yeah, this is the exact same thing that Acosta and McKennedy went back and forth with. All right, let's grab another one here. Some school opening stuff. LAUSD announces plan to fully reopen schools for in-person learning in the fall. By staff reports. Superintendent Austin Buettner announced the plan during a Monday morning briefing. Autoplay go away. Students who are unable to choose not to attend in-person instruction will be offered an online option, he said. The students will be on campus 5 days a week. Buettner said that he expects a vast majority of students, teachers, and staff to be at school every day starting in August, but there will be an online option for those who are unable or choose not to return to the classroom. School campuses, which closed due to the coronavirus pandemic in March of 2020, began reopening again this spring on a limited or hybrid digital basis with rigorously safety practice standards in place, as well as COVID-19 testing program. Vaccines are available for eligible students. Buettner said it remains unclear what safety standards will still be required in the fall. We expect students and staff will continue to wear masks until more children have been vaccinated, he said, but August is still 3 months away and we can't predict exactly what standards health authorities will tell us are more appropriate at the time. While we have some sense of what school might look like, our COVID crystal ball is not perfect. A lot of stuff to unpack with this, and the biggest one that I want to point out with this is the hybrid model that they're doing. Now, New York schools are doing the same thing, and we'll talk about that in just a second, but that's something I have said right from the beginning. From the first time I heard that they were going to shut down schools, that they were going to do Zoom classes, that they were going to do Zoom college, that they were going to do all this kind of stuff. Because the traditional model of school works for I wouldn't say 99%. I would say the traditional model of school works for 90% of the students that go through a school. It will work for the vast majority of them because they come from a position of selective nature versus nurture. It's going to work best for the parents, and that's how the students are going to learn the best for 90% of the people. But now we've got the online option. And honestly, I would almost get this ready to go back to on demand as well, because sometimes the schedule is not going to work for many students either. We're moving out of a factory worker mentality in this country where you got up and you did your 9 to 5 at either the office or the factory or the mines or whatever the fuck you did. And then you went home and spent the night dinner with your family. Our economy and our country is moving into a completely different model of how things work. And there are some kids, because of time constraints and because of the way their time works, that going to school on their own schedule, watching like an audio or video class, like I'm doing with my real estate classes, I'm doing that on my own time. Whenever I can. I don't have to sit by their rigid schedule. I've got everything on my iPod, and I can listen to that while I'm doing something else and when it works best for me. And if it gets to the point where I have to stop and pay attention to something a little bit more closely, I can stop listening at a moment's notice and pick right up where I left off. That's the kind of thing that works best for me, and that's going to work best for some kinds of students. But going in and sitting in a physical building is not going to work for every student anymore. And that's even going into public education. Now, homeschool is a completely different story with that. But I like the fact that they're having this option here and they're exploring different ways, because you're going to see some students who could not excel in the traditional model who are going to soar because they've got this extra option. But now all the options are back on the table. So, your LA schools are opening back up for those of you in Los Angeles. And we've got one here from NPR on the other side of the country. New York City schools will fully reopen with no remote option this fall. So, well, Los Angeles is giving you that remote option. New York schools are saying we will be back to the traditional model, whether you like it or not, and whether you do successful on it or not. Because we are New York, and we will tell you exactly how this goes, and our union tells us what we need to do, because they're really the mob. But make sure you make your donations to NPR. The donate button is right on the top, and they're going to give us a donate link in the middle of the article too, because they need your money. I'm sorry, Conrad, our money. So make sure you go and check that out, because the taxpayer money is not enough. They are supported in part by viewers like you. Let's see what Jessica Gould has to say. New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio is promising a full reopening of the nation's largest public school system in September. That means in person 5 days a week with no remote option for students who attend school exclusively online. The mayor made the announcement Monday on MSDNC's Morning Joe. You can't have a full recovery without full-strength schools, de Blasio said in a segment. Almost 70% of the nation's students attend schools that are currently offering full-time in-person learning. According to the organization Burbio, de Blasio's announcement comes a week after New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy announced there would be no remote option for the state's public school students come September. But questions remain about how New York City will be able to accommodate 100% of its public school students in person. Some administrators worry that there won't be enough space to fit all the students in the classroom under current social distancing requirements. At a city council hearing last week, officials testified that all but 10% of the city's public school could fit their students into classrooms 3 or more feet apart. At a press conference Monday, the mayor said he believes schools can make 3 feet social distancing work, but he expects the CDC and prevention to relax the requirements more by August. Meanwhile, many New York City parents have expressed reluctance around in-person schooling. Data from the U.S. Department of Education shows students of color are less likely than white students to be learning in person. As of March, communities of color in the U.S. have been disproportionately affected by the pandemic. In New York, Asian and black families in particular have been more likely to keep their children home. According to demographic data released by the city, parents there have cited virus safety concerns, a lack of trust in the school system, and fear of discrimination in or on the way to school as reasons for keeping their children home. And once again, we go back to the same thing. There are students that are not going to learn in a classroom. They're going to be sitting there on the desk, staring at the board, listening to the teacher, going, and they'll just be sitting there and you're going to see a lot of that. Whereas you've got the other options now where people can listen to this, work at home. Maybe not on their own schedule yet, but work from home. Do it there without the distraction, without the other students going around flying the paper airplanes or passing notes or anything else like that. And hey, there are some others. And we see that guy in the back of the room who comes and hangs out with us over on Twitch every once in a while, who stated that he says he's 14. Which means that he's doing like I said. Some of these kids have got the Zoom meeting on in one window, and they're watching Contemporary in another window, and they're probably getting a lot more out of Contemporary than they are out of their regular schooling. So, yeah, they're not going to have the option at all, which I think is kind of a shame. I think they should. And just see how it works, and who excels and who doesn't. All right, I just got a few more here. Let's grab one from the Daily Wire. I had a lot of Daily Wire stuff today. I don't like using them all that much because otherwise the people on Twitter come out and say, oh, see, all you do is use right-wing fucking rags. Ha 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 ha. And we have definitive news sources like CNN. China detains reporter who sneaked into a cave where coronavirus samples were collected for Wuhan lab. Destroys photo he took. Report from Ryan Saavedra. Communist China detained a reporter from the Wall Street Journal who snuck into a cave in southern China, where the Wuhan Institute of Virology collected coronavirus samples approximately 8 years ago, after 6 miners became extremely ill, 3 of whom later died after cleaning out the cave's bat feces. The backstory about the 6 miners, which was reported nearly a year ago by The Sun, took place in a copper mine in the mountains of southwest China in the Yunnan province. Chinese authorities have obstructed the independent efforts to investigate the mine, setting up a checkpoint nearby where unidentified men stopped several foreign journalists in recent weeks on one occasion, warning that there were wild elephants ahead. The Wall Street Journal reported a journal reporter reached the mine by mountain bike, but was later detained and questioned for about 5 hours by police, who deleted a cell phone photograph of the mine. Villagers told the reporters that the local officials had warned them not to discuss the mine with outsiders. The BBC tried to get to the mine late last year and were met by police officers who followed them around in unmarked cars. When we ran into checkpoints at which unidentified men told us the job was to keep us out, the BBC reported. At first sight, all of this might seem like a disproportionate effort, given our intended destination, a nondescript abandoned copper mine, in which back in 2012, 6 workers succumbed to a mystery illness that eventually claimed the lives of 3 of them. While the Wall Street Journal contains a lot of information that may seem new, a lot of it was covered months ago by the BBC, the Daily Mail, The Sun, New York Magazine, and various conservative publications. It's only been in the last couple weeks that the narrative in the U.S. mainstream media has started to take a significant shift from the lab leak hypothesis, being a conspiracy theory, to being considered a serious explanation for the origins of the pandemic. Yeah, and they're trying to silence it. Surprise, surprise. But don't worry, this totally was a mutated thing, and this totally came from somebody at a wet market somewhere eating a steak, or it came from Australia, or anything other than a lab leak and the cave. All right, from CNN. Florida Governor DeSantis signs a bill targeting social media platforms, from Brian Fung. And speaking of people named Brian, there's Brian Stelter. By the way, I have mostly a head of hair. I got a little bit thin back here, but this is Brian Stelter, who is younger than me. Just keep that in mind. From CNN Business, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis took a swipe at big tech on Monday as he signed a hot-button state bill targeting how digital platforms moderate online content. The legislation marks one of the biggest steps by a Republican governor to act on allegations of online censorship at the hands of companies such as Facebook, Google, and Twitter. But the tech industry critics say the legislation is unconstitutional, setting the stage for a court battle over the law. In public remarks on Monday, DeSantis blamed a council of censors in Silicon Valley for shutting down debate over COVID-19 lockdowns and the origins of the coronavirus. I would say these lockdowns ruined millions of people's lives all around the country, DeSantis said. Wouldn't it have been good to have a full debate on that in our public square? But that was not what Silicon Valley wanted to do. The bill DeSantis signed prohibits tech platforms from suspending or banning political candidates in the state, with possible fines of $250,000 per day if the deplatformed candidate is seeking statewide office, and $25,000 per day if the candidate is running for a non-statewide office. The legislation also gives Florida residents the ability to sue tech companies for deplatforming. Similar bills have been considered in states such as Arkansas, Kentucky, Oklahoma, and Utah. Florida's bill comes as U.S. lawmakers have proposed significant changes to federal laws that give tech platforms the legal leeway to curate the platforms without being sued. The federal law, Section 230 of the Communications Act of 1934, has come under attack by Democrats who argue platforms benefit from the law's immunity protections without doing enough to rein in offensive content, while Republicans argue that the platforms restrict too much content. So, that's going to be an interesting battle. And it's not going to be interesting in the case of my private company, which really, honestly, that should be the only argument that's going on. But it's not the argument right now because none of these companies are, in fact, a private company. They do platform political figures who pay large sums of money to be platformed by them, to get verified, to get blue checked so that they know that they're official. Plus, they get government subsidies for emergency services, for news services. They get public subsidies for that. They are government subsidized to the point that they are not a private company anymore. And the private company argument doesn't work with that. And ironically enough, in spite of the fact that they get very few public subsidies, and I do think that your parlors and your Gaps and whatnot do get some public subsidies. I think that if you come out and tell me that they get nothing, I'm going to call you a liar. But they get far fewer, and the government wouldn't be able to come out and do this for them because they would get called out for it. In spite of that, still, if you look at what they're doing, they are way more free speech than the people who are getting massive government subsidies, enough to be possibly considered a government agency that should be held to the First Amendment. So, we can sit back and watch where this goes. I want to get some popcorn and watch and see where this goes through the district courts, but we'll see what happens with it. From the Daily Wire. DeSantis triggers standing ovation after reporter uses Trump to attack him. And this one we have videos. We have video for this one. On Monday, Florida Governor DeSantis triggered a standing ovation at a ceremony in Miami when a reporter asked him if the bill he signed limiting big tech from censoring political opinions was for the benefit of former President Trump, and DeSantis fired back in a blistering response. Let's have a listen.
Have to be able to do it. Yes, ma'am.
Governor, hi. I want to ask you about the bill that you're signing here today. You're a loyal supporter of former President Donald Trump. Of course, Donald Trump is now a resident in Florida, and he was deplatformed. Is this bill for him?
The bill is for everyday Floridians. This is what we said, and it will allow any Floridian to be able to provide what they're doing. So, but I do think that's another issue that has been brought to bear. When you deplatform the President of the United States, but you let Ayatollah Khomeini talk about killing Jews, that is wrong. Thank you, guys. God bless everybody.
Nice. And, well, that's one of the things, too, to sit back and look at with this, when you look at what's going on with that, and the fact that DeSantis is coming off of this. Now, I would have gone a completely different direction, but that is a good direction to take. Yes, there's big things to go with when you look at this, and whether or not it's the Ayatollah or whether it's the president. I mean, the president is, you have to remember that in spite of the fact that the Ayatollah tweeted about killing Jews, the former president, number 45, is much, much worse because he is both evil and orange and evil at the same time. That is unique evil that you can't ignore. But I would have gone in a completely different direction with that and reminded the people that if they're willing to do that to the president, they will do that to you at the drop of a hat. I don't know how you can survive if you are both evil and orange and evil at the same time. That's like evil squared, isn't it? I don't know. But yeah, that's a great video. That's great on DeSantis. And good on him for that. Let's talk about Andrew Yang. I got just a couple more after this one, then we'll do Twitter trending and head out of here. We might not be able to raid Steven today because I don't think we're going to be on long enough for that. Because he doesn't start until 9. We'll still go back over and check him out, but he doesn't start till 9, and I think we're going to be done before that. Andrew Yang's wife excoriates a New York Daily News cartoon for racist disfiguration of her husband. From Carlos Garcia. Evelyn Yang excoriated the New York Daily News for publishing what she called a racist disfiguration of her husband, New York City mayoral candidate Andrew Yang. The cartoon by Bill Brumhall mocked Yang with the common criticism that he wasn't enough of a true New Yorker by representing him as a tourist visiting Times Square. And I'm kind of keeping this hidden on the bottom here. Are you guys ready for it? Are you ready? Let's see this. There it is. That's the offensive cartoon. The tourists are back. The cartoon was a reference to Yang saying in an interview that Times Square was his favorite subway station, something many New Yorkers saw as an opinion held only by tourists. My resident New Yorker, is that true? Is that what they think about the subway stations? I can't believe my eyes to publish this racist disfiguration of Andrew Yang as a tourist in New York City, where I was born, where Andrew has lived for 25 years, where our boys were born, where 16% of us are Asian, and anti-Asian hate is up 900%, she responded. I don't know. I wouldn't have gone with the subway station thing, I guess, if it was me. Okay, that's probably a little bit, that's probably just a little bit more racist than the other one here. For me, I wouldn't have gone that direction if you're trying to call up the tourism thing with the subway stations. I would have done the bodega thing myself. You know, when a guy walks into what's clearly a regular grocery store, it says, "I'm going down to the bodega," and then can't break a fucking banana off the bunch. Yay, I love the bodega! But yeah, I thought this was going to go completely differently when I saw this, because I didn't preview this at all. I thought this was going to go completely differently, and Yang is not a New Yorker. As little as I know about actual New Yorkers, I know that Andrew Yang is not one of them. That much I can tell. He is pandering, he's doing whatever he can, and I know his wife is. I understand his kids are, but that dude is not. He is not. He tries to play one on TV, but he's not a New Yorker. Alright, let's grab this one here from ABC7. Man arrested after trying to run over cops driving a car through a police station lobby. Which is interesting because I haven't really shared much of this one yet, but I had an incident on Sunday night where I had more questions than answers. Because where I live set back in a cul-de-sac behind one of the main roads, but I can see just from, looking out that window that's over there, if the blinds are open, I can see across the street. And I saw a bunch of cop lights the other day, and fire truck lights and everything else, and I'm thinking, okay, because there is somebody who's a little bit elderly that lives over there that's having some health problems. So I'm used to seeing emergency lights over there. So I didn't think much of it, but I looked closer and I saw that there were a lot more than usual over there. So I decided to go down and have a look, and there was a car buried in the side of an apartment building across the street from me. Which now I have more questions than I had before I walked over there. It's weird how that works. But regardless, this is another situation here. A man has been arrested after calling a police department and threatening to kill a police officer before attempting to run over several cops and driving his car through the station's lobby. The incident occurred at approximately 9:34 p.m. at Havre de Grace, Maryland, about 40 miles northeast of Baltimore, when the suspected 24-year-old Timothy Call placed a call to the police department and told authorities he was going to come there and kill a police officer, according to Havre de Grace Police Department. Authorities said they were able to obtain information during the call that led them to believe that Call was driving in the area where he lived. The Havre de Grace Police Department subsequently responded to that area and located the suspect driving erratically, police said. When officers went out to make contact with him, he tried to run them over with his vehicle several times. The Havre de Grace Police Department said in a statement describing the incident, he struck several parked vehicles and tried to run over the officers before fleeing the area. Police say that Cole drove into the Havre de Grace Police Department where he hit another parked car before intentionally driving his vehicle through the front doors of the police department. The attack didn't stop there. He exited the vehicle as he came back out the front doors and tried to attack police officers, police said. Officers report that they were able to tase Kyle at the point and arrest him. Before he was taken into Hartford Medical Hospital for treatment, it is unclear what injuries Kyle may have sustained during the incident. Well, I'm sure he bounced off the fucking airbag if he drove his car through the police station. I have never been so mad that I wanted to use a car as a battering ram. I try not to get mad. I try to get as mad as little as I possibly can, but I've never been so mad that I felt the need to drive a car into a building. I don't know. All right, last one, then we'll do Twitter trending for the day. This comes from the Daily Wire. California Democrat and top gun control advocate thought plastic BB gun packaging held semi-automatic pistol. From Mareed McArdle. A Democratic California lawmaker and leading advocate for gun control mistook the discarded plastic packaging of a BB gun as having contained a real firearm on Sunday and took to social media to recount the disturbing experience. California State Assembly member David Chu was mocked on Twitter after he posted a photo of what he said was the discarded packaging of a semi-automatic, but was in fact packaging for a Glock 19 semi-automatic airsoft BB gun. The Lost Legionnaire tweets out, "Remember not to litter your BB gun packages, folks. A California assemblyman might see it and start grandstanding." Finding the discarded packaging of a semi-automatic on a leisurely weekend walk was disturbing, particularly during the month's surge of gun violence in San Francisco, Chu wrote in his now-deleted tweet. The packaging was labeled airgun, as many Twitter users were quick to point out. If you seriously think real firearms come in little hangable plastic packages, it's best you stay out of the 2A discussion, one commenter wrote. Chu represents the 17th Assembly District, which includes eastern San Francisco, where gun violence has surged in recent weeks. So far this year, at least 87 people have been shot in San Francisco, compared to 35 by this time last year, according to police data. And these are the people that make your laws. Just keep that in mind. These are the people who make your laws. The people who believe that you can just walk in and grab a hanging plastic package that's got a semi-automatic firearm. Not an airsoft gun, a firearm. It's time to vote some of these people out, you guys. Because these are the people who make the rules that they want you to live by. Yes, I'm serious. Alright, that's it. That's enough news for the day. Except unless there's news in the Twitter trending here, because it is Tuesday, which means it's Twitter trending day. So let's get over here. Let's open up the Explore tab and see what's trending on the twat toilet today. Under trending, we're not going to do the for me, we're going to do the actual trending here. Number 1, politics trending today. Hashtag George Floyd. St. George, hallowed be his name. People around the world mark the 1-year anniversary of George Floyd's death. We have been going through a year of this bullshit. And we're still going to probably get another trial of Derek Chauvin. They're not going to talk about it until then, but we're probably going to get another trial because there's enough there that the appeals court should say that this was a mistrial and we need to go back and do this again. Or he died in prison and nobody's talking about it. One of the two. So that's number 1 trend today. Hashtag George Floyd. Make sure you make your totally organic hashtag George Floyd tweet and make sure that it's honoring the memory of the saint who changed the world forever. When you tweet today. We will skip the Tuesday stuff, so number 2 is going away. Number 3 is going to be National Wine Day. Apparently today is National Wine Day. By the way, I have my bucket now. I still need to grab some fruit and some supplies to do so, but I'm going to be making wine. Just for fun because I want to see if I can do it or not. I've never tried to make any kind of alcohol, and everybody does beer. Everybody does beer. I want to do something different, so I'm going to learn how to make wine. I don't know what kind of wine I'm going to make. I'm going to see if I can figure out how to make a nice Merlot. Let that sit and age for 20 fucking years or something. But, yes, today is Wine Day. National Wine Day. Too bad I don't drink anymore. Number 3, or number 4 in the actual trending, John Cena. Professional wrestler and actor John Cena apologized to China in Mandarin on Sina Weibo for calling Taiwan a country during an interview promoting Fast and Furious 9. Why? Let's have a listen. Because they gave us a nice video for this. At least I know which part of my body is stronger than John Cena's. My spine.
你好，中国，这是叫西娜。我必须说，现在，在《速度与激情》中，我做很多采访，很多，所以在一个采访，我有一个错误，所有人问我，如果我可以用中文，速度与激情中人给我很多资讯 information。所以很多采访，很多 information，我有一个错误，我必须说，现在就是很重要，我爱更尊重中国，更中国人，我很抱歉对我的错误，对不起，我很抱歉，你必须了解，我。很爱，很尊重中国跟中国人，不好意思，再见。
Well, I don't speak Mandarin, so I have no idea what the hell he just said. But apparently it was a major apology to China for calling Taiwan a country. Your guess is as good as mine. All right, Lord will be our fourth one for the day. Caught the melodrama, Lord has given the green light for a royal return, and it's at Primavera Sound 2020. I didn't even know that she was still alive. I thought she died. But apparently she's going to be at Primavera Sound. Okay. Actually, I thought I didn't think she was a bad singer. I really didn't. The music is not the kind of music I liked. I thought she was really good at singing. Maybe she could have maybe cut some of the poppy bullcrap, but regardless. And yeah, she's coming back apparently, so I'm neutral to Lord. I am. All right. Last one. Not a penny. Hashtag not a penny. Today's hashtag is not a penny in honor of Rich Greenfield, tomorrow's celebrity, trades. We'll love it. Guess who? A bunch of apes doing ape shit is all. AMC, not a penny. AMC strong. AMC squeeze. AMC for life. AMC Theaters CEO uses Twitter to build relationships with retail investors. So apparently AMC is trying to get investors out to work with a short squeeze, apparently is what I'm gathering from this. Less than 15 minutes into the normal market hours, and we're already testing that 1454 resistance. Today we ain't playing not a penny, AMC squeeze. So I'm not completely sure what's going on with this, but this I'm sure going on with the short squeeze. I think they're going to try to push AMC to the moon again, which means that somebody's going to make a buttload of money and wonder why they've got such a high tax bill coming up next year. I do like that, though. Me after Rich Greenfield blocked me. Hashtag not a penny. $AMC. So I guess if you're looking for something, oh hey, look, Chauvin's trending. Oh, I suppose because it's the 1 year anniversary. I thought maybe he was going to get his appeal coming up. But yeah, there's Sheldon knocking and Penny. 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 All right. And that's going to be it for the day. That's going to be all of our Twitter trending. Check out your AMC. This is not official financial advice, but I guess it's going to be worth checking out. So see what we can do for there. Let's get out of here. And we are too early to go raid Stephen Ignoramus, but we're still going to head on out of here because, well, I got to get some breakfast. You guys got to get to work and go check out the Daily Ignoramus. So let's throw some music up here and let's get out. All right, so thanks everybody who came. I got to turn that down just a little bit. All right, well, thanks everybody who came and hung out with us in the live chat here. Thank you guys. Make sure that if you are just lurking right now, and I see a bunch of people in here, so if you're just lurking right now, get those last minute messages in because I will take your names down and thank you properly coming up this coming Friday, which will be right before Memorial Day. So come and hang out. By the way, just for announcement as well, there will be Contemporary on Memorial Day as well. I'm not expecting a lot of people to be here. I'm expecting most people will still be out camping, but even still, I will be here. So if you guys want to be here, then there will be a place for you. So come back and hang out over that. Definitely looking forward to that. Looking forward to seeing you guys there and looking forward to having more news coming up. We'll be back here tomorrow with more Contemporary, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot more news, especially if AMC does what I think it's going to do. We're going to be talking about that, plus a lot more. Plus, we'll probably talk about St. George and Derek Chauvin and all the other kind of stuff. Looking forward to that. Definitely looking forward to that. All right. Otherwise, yeah, let's see you guys tomorrow here, same time. Until then, I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Take care.